Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar titled Dynamic Working Environments and Secure Technology. Over the next hour, we'll be exploring how the government agencies can empower their workforce to create a dynamic and productive working environment. My name is Samantha Andrews. I'm Head of Partner Management here at Econocom, and I'm delighted to welcome Tom Maguire. He's our Head of IT at Econocom. Nice way from Tom. Joanne Kumper, from Strategic Lead for IT Talent Acquisition from London Borough of Lambeth, way from Joe, and Helen Coombe, Cabinet Minister member for Resources and Transformation. I've promoted you already.
Thank you.
For Resources and Transformation from London Borough of Redbridge. Thank you all for joining us. Before I get underway, I just want to give you all a little bit of background on Econocom. And so basically, if I just change my slide. So we are a group of companies structured across Europe and UK. We're headquartered in France, and we have sorry, I've moved the slide on. We're very eco-friendly, very environmentally friendly. We have over 8,000 employees. We turn over around about 2.7 billion euros, and we are an IT reseller. We also focus on sort of four main business units. One of them being workplace, that's your devices that you use, infrastructure, the stuff that all supports it, and then also financing and audiovisual, which is our sort of large format screens, etc. These are some of the partners that we work with, so you'll probably see some familiar names in there. And we're also obviously on the CPAS framework and the Crown Commercial Services, and we're a Cyber Essentials accredited company as well. So that's a little bit about us. Now I'd just like to get underway and take you through the reasons you're here, really. So our first sort of section, if you want to, for want of a better thing, is attracting and retaining some talent. So I want to put some questions out to our speakers, Joe and to Helen. What do you think are the most impactful ways of attracting and retaining talent in the public sector at this time? Helen, do you want to lead?
Shall I start then?
Yes, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to behave myself, Helen.
I think we've both been, after you.
After you.
Be polite.
After you. So it's definitely a real challenge in the public sector because obviously, as we all know, we don't have the money that other places have got. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to really securely promote ourselves, our own branding, the things that we can offer for the talent that's out there, the talent that we need, to help residents and make councils efficient. And so sometimes I don't think that people appreciate the breadth of the things that councils actually do. So, it's not just about potholes, it's not just about schools. There's absolutely massive variety of jobs that are available within councils. Some of them within IT, some within adult social services. And actually nowadays as well, in adult social services across other departments, the IT itself is key, enabling to do more and to do better, often with less. Usually that is one of our key drivers, as sadly. So for instance, we've got we're part of LOTI, which for people who don't know is the London Office of Technology and Innovation. So we work with them, and we're on a project at the moment which is about damp and mold, which is also another very important thing that people have been talking about recently, which actually is it's a pilot. It's actually about putting monitors in people's homes, which then transmits the data, so the kinds of things that people are dealing with, what the differences are during the day, in temperature, in condensation, all of those kinds of things, so that people back in the office can look at these things and decide what needs to be done, how much of a problem it is. So there's a whole wealth of stuff out there in councils that we need to attract people into.
Joe, any views from you?
Yes, and thank you for mentioning Lottie there, Helen. I also work with Lottie, and it is a fantastic collaboration, and we get to meet Helen's fantastic colleague Cassandra, who we very much enjoy working with across London, and that's an important piece of the attraction and retention strategy that we're deploying. Is actually all of us working together. So you might be joining one council, but there are 32 in London, plus the city, plus the GLA. So there are some amazing projects which one organisation couldn't fund. But that Damp and Mold project is amazing because lots and lots of councils are taking part and partnering with Amazon and getting lots of, or AWS, and getting lots of fantastic bits of tech. That is revolutionary. Another one, which I was privy to recruiting for, was we were looking for a project manager to work on homelessness across all the London boroughs. Now, if you are there in one of the 32 boroughs and you are thinking, how can I invest in ending homelessness in my borough? You know, spending 200 grand is a lot of money, but if you get 20 councils to help you and you're all paying in 10, you produce some fantastic things, like the current tool that's being showcased at the Paris Summit, AI Action Summit coming up, which is a Lottie has selected an AI tool to help understand homelessness across London. That can only happen with all of us collaborating and working together. But that then also leads on to another factor, which is what we do is really impactful. So if we're talking about attracting and retaining talent, which was the question, we can attract people by the wonderfully impactful work that we do and the impact it has in our communities. And often that is a key driver, especially amongst the millennial. You know, they are not interested in making money for the man. They are not interested in big houses if they can ever afford to buy one. What they are interested in is having an impact in their communities. So we leverage that. And as Helen says, promoting ourselves isn't just around the breadth of work that we do, but also the really cool stuff that we do, the amazing stuff that you would never have access to if you're working in the commercial sector, which you can only deliver through, as Helen mentions, the Damp and Mold project. I mentioned the Rough Sleeping project. Imagine that, you're that project manager, you get to work on a tool that can ultimately end homelessness in London through using AI. Absolutely fantastic piece of work. And there's some other amazing things that all the councils are delivering. Adopting AI to help with case notes in social care. Just one example of where councils are able to be nimble, able to be agile, and actually really embrace new technology. And that really has to be part of our attraction strategy, to get the talent in and to keep the talent in, keep them interested.
Yeah,
back to you, Sam.
I kind of think, I was just thinking about it. I think about when I first stepped into my first career path and I made my first choice of going into the workforce. And I think I had two offers of employment, and one, and we are going back a while, but one of them was, one had one type of car option and the other one had a different type. And I went, and basically the passage was the same, but the car was different. So the choice of car that I could drive around in made my choice of which company I would work for, and I've been in IT distribution ever since. So that was I could have ended up in pharmaceuticals, I think, if I'd gone the other way. But that sort of brings me to when you look at, say, employee choice with devices and stuff and all the things that they can do now, especially when we're talking about AI. Is that part of some of the things that you choose? Have you councils adopting maybe a device choice for their staff these days, or is that something that you think about when you start to attract your talent?
Well, we don't quite so much do that as the choice of device. We've pretty much got everything rolled out in the same place, although it is possible to choose other devices. But I think what we also need to do is that there are lots of people who are very tech savvy, very happy, just get on with it on their own. That they've looked into Microsoft Copilot, all these other things that are available out there. But there's also a tranche of people who actually, they just use it for their day job. they're not going to go outside of that, and they are the ones that we actually also need to be focused on training opportunities, learning development, so that it's part of their working life that these things are available to them. So that actually we're looking at progression for staff within the organisation. So, you know, it's not that you come in and you stay there at that particular level, but that actually, you know, we're furnishing you with some choices. And one of the other things about councils is that, you know, to flex in and out of working in a council. So, you know, there are good things that we offer, like, you know, security, pensions, good sick pay, all of that kind of thing. It should be easier for people to move in and out of working in local government.
Yeah. And do you, so I kind of like, I wouldn't mind putting a question to the audience, actually. I don't know if we can have a poll come up, but, and asking the sort of same way as, and if they could maybe relate their, audience in order of importance, what you think the most impactful ways of attracting and retaining talent are in your area of public sector. So you should see a poll come up, and then you should be able to choose your one of 5 answers. I think that's happening, or one of 4 answers rather. I think that might be happening in the background. But from that thing, so from when we're talking about, you know, embracing that sort of new technology, using that, you're talking about other staff that's already currently, you know, been in the service, like for many years, and how you sort of implementing any training programs to help them navigate the new technologies and work environments. Joanne, is that something you can shed some light on?
Yes. So training programs are key to any successful rollout of any change within the organisation. So whereas Helen sits sort of across the organisation, making sure it works brilliantly. And in fact, she is given the mandate by our citizens. We deliver against what Helen asks us to do. We are advisors rather than choosers and decision makers. You know, we have to take our mandate from the electorate. So when it comes to things like what devices are out there, you've got your frontline staff who are delivering vital services to our most vulnerable. As we've mentioned, adult and children's social care, as we've also mentioned, schools, education, potholes, our highways team, our bins team, they're out there. They are, you know, what's important to them is that they can do their work and they can do it effectively. And that device is safe and secure, and the cyber isn't going to compromise them in any way, and often we know that the people are the risk. And then you've got the other side where I sit, which is in the digital data and technology teams, whereby actually they are interested in what kit they get to play with. They genuinely are. What kind of technology is being adapted and rolled out across the organisation? I remember when I joined the public sector, was one organisation still on, I think, 2013 version of Microsoft, and we were moving them over to work. I tell you, laughing. I know.
Tom's
not that far away.
Wow, that takes him
not
back.
That far away. And then, you know, we're all on a 365 now. And in terms of what I do, I pop in and out of different councils and deliver new operating models or deal with, you know, a new target operating model. And so what I'm interested in is, can you make it safe and secure so I can jump from one council between Lottie and, you know, 1 minute I'm at Redbridge, next minute I'm at Lambeth. So can I jump between councils safely and securely on my one device, which is an Apple device? I personally am an Apple aficionado, which you might have picked up with because of the Apple headphones. But also I do have a remarkable notepad that I got for Christmas because I'm a techie person. And I have had some digital directors be a little bit jealous of that. So yeah, there are some of us who like that device stuff. That's our driver. That's what we want to do. And yeah, we do get excited about that. And actually, can I work easily between, you know, the different programs that I need to operate on? But for our frontline staff, what's really important is delivering services to our most vulnerable.
Yeah, and I guess doing that would, like you say, securely is a kind of brings me on my next topic, I guess. So when I look at security, ransom, I don't know if everybody's aware of the ransom attack on the NHS provider Synovis in 2024. That cost £32.7 million apparently, and that has severely impacted some of the healthcare services that we saw across London and the wider area. And with cyber attacks on the rise and more end users, working, as to your point, Joe, across those different councils. They're working out of coffee shops, using public Wi-Fi. What approach does the public sector do to protect some of that data? And maybe, Tom, I wonder, from your perspective, you've done many years working with Apple, and have some understanding about some of the devices that they use, and some of the security problems that they pose. We obviously don't just sell Apple products. We also align with all the others. We love all our children, the same. So each area will have its own advantages. So I don't know, Tom, would you agree with that? Would you?
Yeah, certainly, Sam. So I think, for one, that what we're seeing now is this kind of paradigm shift in hybrid working is it's kind of the norm now. So people might be working. Funny enough, I'm actually at Gatwick Airport working away on public Wi-Fi right now. Am I secure? I think so. I'm tunneling my traffic through a secure VPN. This is just kind of one of the examples of how we can take that device. But I think that 20 years ago, everyone was inside a building. Everyone was secure because they were on a wired connection. But those days are long gone, I think. So one of the shifts we're seeing in the market as such is very much to do with what they call, I don't know if you guys, Joe and Helen, have heard about like what they call zero trust architecture by design. So in a nutshell, that's where we treat devices, and this is platform agnostic. You could be on an Android, an Apple, a Microsoft. I mean, ultimately, it's very much device agnostic. But the idea is that we kind of treat these devices untrusted. We give them the least possible access, regardless if they're on a safe network. But we can also do that through MDM. So if a device is compromised, in the unlikelihood, I mean, we're talking about some fantastic advancements now. Again, Joe, as you said, you're on a Mac. I'm also running on a Mac today, and I know, for example, that my device is encrypted, this is all built-in technology. We've got technologies like Gatekeeper and SIP, System Integrity Protection, things like secure enclaves and platform single sign-on. So the days of actually being unsecure on these devices, through, if you're using one of the kind of top Gartner MDMs, gives you that sort of functionality to work anywhere, make sure that your device is trusted, only allow access to company resources. So I don't know if you guys have heard of things like conditional access. That's certainly something we're seeing people organizations putting a lot of time and effort into. So making sure that you can only access company resources if your device is secure. So, for example, it's up to date with the latest software updates. It's got a PIN, a password, and even then, this is the great thing. We're moving away from passwords. I mean, no one liked passwords, right? And back in the day, that the government standards were let's rotate passwords every 90 days. They've actually moved away from that now. So we're moving into a world of what like two-factor MFA. So the idea with MFA, in a nutshell, is that there's kind of three main types. You've got things that so knowledge, such as a password or a PIN. Things that you have, a possession, such as a smartphone, where it can send through a push notification, or, for example, one of those YubiKeys. I don't know if you've seen those that plug in. It's a hardware encrypted device. Or things that you are. So, for example, biometrics, fingerprints, Face ID, all of these great technologies there. So we're definitely becoming a lot more secure. And now that we can work, as you say, in a public airport, securely accessing company resources, it's really amazing. And just one other thing I just wanted to point on to touch on with that last point, is one shift we're definitely seeing in the market, and a kind of a requirement we're seeing in terms of it getting onboarding new staff and attracting talent, is we're definitely seeing this, where graduates have spent the past 3-4 years at university using the device of their choice. And we are seeing that as kind of one of those kind of deciding factors, as Sam alluded to with her car choice back in the day. We're definitely seeing that where organizations are now able to issue, for example, Apple devices, even if the whole organization is Microsoft. I mean, that's something that we specialize in terms of just getting, your Apple estate very much working within the Microsoft ecosystem. So for single sign-on, so that I can just sign in with my Microsoft user details into my Mac, and everything works seamless. Thank you.
So, and have we got any? I guess probably from a security piece. How do you keep your you know, a lot of these guys, like you say, are working in sort of the front line. How do you keep them up to date with, you know, security, keep them informed, etc., of anything that within their environments? Because they might be, you know, unreachable maybe, or difficult because they're out all the time. I mean, how does that factor in? Probably, I think that, Helen, is that something that you involved in, or?
Yeah, so obviously as a council, we're very very aware and very concerned about safety, cybersecurity, all the rest of it. That actually our devices are secure and they're updated frequently with, you know, the new bug fixing things. And so actually, if you haven't used your device in X number of days, then you might find yourself unable to use it because it's not had the necessary updates, that kind of thing. We're also really keen on making sure that people keep their training updated, because actually we're talking about council things, but it's in everybody's everyday life, isn't it? You know, people getting scammed, phished, all these sorts of things, and that you've really got to be very aware of it, not just in your working life, but also you know, to protect yourself in your own personal business.
I can speak to that actually, Helen, of something amazing that I saw. So security is incredibly important. I cannot think of one council that doesn't have a multi-factor authentication process to log into their system. I cannot think of one council that does not have compulsory training around GDPR and information governance. It is very important. And in terms of your conditional access is always controlled. So if you think of just think of our systems, if you think we've got an adult, no, we've got a children's social care system, we can only allow access to people who are meant to have access to that. We cannot by mistake give access to a parent who has been barred from seeing that child. So security is absolutely paramount to what we do. But let's talk on the wider security piece in terms of creating that safe by design environment and getting everyone to be safe by choice. So Brent Council, who I love, really award-winning council, very forward thinking, and they launched something called Brent Technology Week. And at the time, the lady is now director for technology at Hackney Council, who are famous in this world of security. But when she was at Brent Council, Rahana Ramesh was thinking, how am I going to get my staff to take security seriously? So I actually attended this event, and she had a speaker there to talk about phishing and how the different techniques that are used to phish. And phishing is a technique in order to send you something that looks authentic, and then as it turns out, it's not authentic, and actually your passwords have been captured. And one of the things this speaker's got us to do was to go on the website Have I Been Pawned? And Have I Been Pawned it's not a porn site, so calm down. It's actually PAWNED. Have I Been Pawned?
That'll be blocked for a start.
Yeah, that'll be blocked. We'll get through that'll be on the banned list. That was to see if anyone had cloned your email address and stuff to build up a profile of you. We all sat there doing it in the audience. He encouraged us all to do it, and without fail, every audience member then changed their password and update. And this time last year, I got pawned, and I was on one of those lists. And I got the email from Have You Been Pawned, and I got the list of where it had been compromised. Remember Eddie, who's the director of Lottie, phoning me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm actually just updating all of my security." And he went, "Why?" I went, "Because this has happened." He went, "Oh, yeah, good luck with that, Jay." And then quickly got off the call. It took me 2 days to unpick everything and make sure everything was secure. And I told everybody as well. So there is that collaboration. I am very privileged because I can literally phone up, a technology policy and security advisor in one of the councils or for London and say, "This has happened, what should I do?" And actually those people are available within the councils to help people. I know when they are, and they will happily help colleagues. And I know that Dorset Council, I believe, Deborah Smart was down there, and during the pandemic, she set up a helpline. So we're all doing things a lot more remotely, and she set up a helpline so that any member of her residents could phone up and say, "This is my tech problem, can you help me?" And she made that available to all of her citizens within her borough. So there are some amazing things that we do. Making it safe by design and making it safe environment is something that councils take very, very seriously, and everybody's on that journey to help everyone keep us all safe and secure.
I think that's a great story there, Joe. And I think one thing I would definitely implore everyone on this call to look at their kind of IT stack and think, do I have an application or a system that still has that individual password? What we're very much seeing a trend in the industry for is moving to an IDP, so identity provider. So that could be, for example, Okta. There's many of them out there. One of them, Entra ID, which used to be called Azure. The idea of just having a single password that you can log into, using your Microsoft account, your Google account, or your Okta account to log into, and that way you don't have to have individual passwords for all of these different websites. So I definitely think that if that's not on your roadmap, or look at the application stack you're using, because ultimately, you only have to sign into one thing, like for example Okta. And then you have a landing page, and you can literally launch all of your HR systems, all of the systems that you have been given access to, but without having to utilize another password to sign in. And where these technologies are very cool is they have what they call like superhuman activity. So for example, if you've just signed in Lambeth, Joe, for example, and someone else has just used your credentials to log in from, let's say, Russia, this is when it'll often challenge that access and say, right, okay, time to check why Joe's signing in London at the same time simultaneously signing in from Russia. Let's go ahead and prompt a 2FA policy, for example, or make her go through an extra layer of security. So I definitely think it's something we're seeing a transition in the industry for. So very cool.
We actually do have a really cool thing at Lambeth. I was off in Warsaw in Poland, and I had to do some interviews had the time off, but I had to do some interviews that were already set up. So I logged on using my multi-factor authentication, and I signed in and I started working, and I got a phone call from one of the people I'd actually hired into the organization. It was a security analyst, said, "Joe, why are you logging in Poland?" And I said, "Because I'm in Poland and everyone knows I'm in Poland." And I did tell our security lead I'd be in Poland, so it's okay, I'm on the list. I love the fact it worked.
I can say.
And the devices are secure by design now. You've got on-device encryption from Windows, that's BitLocker. You've got obviously you've got FileVault on Mac. These devices with biometrics and all that information is secured on secure enclave chips, for example, on Mac, means that data is not retrievable. That login information. So very cool stuff. Sorry, Joe. Helen.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, with Joe's point about being in Poland, that actually, although you can take your kits abroad and work from abroad, it only has to be from a country that's on the green list. And you also have to tell people, like in the old days when you said, there's going to be different activity on my credit card, so they didn't stop you. That kind of thing. So there's just so many different layers and levels of trying to keep people safe from doing something inadvertently, really, which is sometimes the biggest danger.
And I think that's also
completely daft.
applies to all of your devices, because for example, your laptops might be super secure, but also to make sure that if you are issued a company mobile, or if you're using your own device, like a BYOD scenario, to make sure that, for example, it has MAM, mobile application. So for example, if you use a personal phone and you access company data, can we lock down the application that you're accessing? So for example, Microsoft Outlook on your phone, to stop it copying data, and from a data loss prevention. So yeah, absolutely. I think nowadays we need to look at the whole IT equipment stack that you have. So for example, if you go traveling, making sure that those devices, for example, are on the green list, for example, you're allowed to go, but also making sure that those your iPhone, your Android is up to date, compliant. And if it is your own personal device, how is it being secured on that system to only access the data it needs to?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have myself on mute. So that actually probably brings me into another question for the audience, and maybe we could run another poll question number 2, which to the audience, to say, how secure do you feel your endpoint devices are while honouring your privacy? You should have a selection of answers there. So if you could let us know what you're thinking there. And then I'll come back. I've just noticed we've got some questions from the audience as well that I wouldn't mind putting to everybody. So one of the questions, and it sort of goes back to where we were previously a little earlier on in our conversation, was from Kemi Darby in the Havering Council government, saying, where can we find the information in the All Councils project on homelessness? I think you touched on
Hi,
that.
Kerry. It's on the website. It's on Lottie's website. And in fact, I will go onto LinkedIn and try and share it with you now. We put an update on it this morning.
How fantastic.
But if you go to lottie.london, it's there as well.
Brilliant. And the next second question is from Michael Shepley. He says, how many organisations recruit to maintain the status quo, or are prepared to recruit to bring in fresh ideas that will positively challenge the team organisation?
Say that question again.
Yeah, so I'm reading it again, thinking the same thing. So how many organisations recruit to maintain the status quo, or are you actively prepared to recruit to bring in fresh ideas? So are you looking for new talent? I'm assuming that says.
Helen, you go first. You give the from above, and I'll give you the from within.
You know, when we go out to advertise, we try to use, obviously we use the trade journals like, you know, MJ rather, you know, all of those kinds of things. We use different methods of getting our job adverts out there. So, you know, we advertise internally, we advertise through those trade magazines. We'll go out to headhunter's not quite the right word, but you know, that kind of organisation. It depends what kind of level we're looking for, and so we are looking for somebody who fits the person spec and the job description. So essentially, I don't mind where they come from. I used to be a teacher before I retired, and actually I was a primary school teacher, and you know, I can see the benefit of new blood, because you know, people, they bring new ideas, different ways of working, things they've done somewhere else, things they'd like to try, you know, so we're quite open to wherever the talent comes from.
To pick up on that, that's what I go in and do, and it's not quite headhunting as you say, Helen. It is going out to attract the talent. So this started at the Shared Technology Service for Brent, Lewisham and Southwark. We were doing a new target operator model. We want fresh talent. We genuinely want fresh blood in. We genuinely want people from out of sector to move into our sector. And we do proactively go out and target these people who've got the right skill set. One of the things that we have to do is help you understand. So Lottie.London does have a paper. I wrote it about 3 years ago. Some councils are adopting it, some councils aren't, but different strategies and tactics that we are deploying in order to attract talent from out of sector. And I'm currently working with a number of councils whereby we are proactively looking for that talent. I'm spending time talking through the different options. This webinar is one example of the things that we do. We do want people from out of sector. We do need to help you understand how to apply for a job in the public sector and how to perform at the interview, how to get the best out of the interview. It's not necessarily the easiest process to go through, especially if you do feel blind, like going through the woods, but there are some amazing stories and amazing successes. And for that particular shared technology, and that's an infrastructure business, we've got in a couple of people from Channel 4, we've got a couple of people from ASOS. We really brought in people that were not from the public sector, as well as making sure they're diverse in their backgrounds and represented very well the communities that we were serving.
Thank you for that. And another question, I've got one from Javid saying, dynamic working environment, how does access to work impact these working environment?
So are you talking about access to work in terms of the support for disability, people with?
I'm assuming so. It doesn't
So if it's
just as dynamic working, how does access to work? I'm guessing that's a.
So if it's specifically around the funding that you get around disability, I cannot think of one HR director who doesn't say to me, declare your disability. We really want you to declare it. So we can put that in place. So at that point of when you are hired by the council and you tell us that you have these support requirements, we can draw down that funding and we can make sure that you are given all the support and help that you require in order to best perform in that job. And I can think of individuals that I have placed that we have done that for and given them a very successful work-life balance and given them a very successful outcome in the workplace. But you have to tell us and you have to declare it. As soon as it's declared, we are able to access that funding. The sooner you do it, the better.
Some of the technologies, thank you, Joe. Some of the technologies and certainly the vendors out there that are starting these technologies are very much geared around assisted technology. Tom, I know you've had quite a lot of dealings with, certainly from an Apple perspective. What's the sort of key areas with Apple that I think you've found, or some of the new things from Microsoft where they are, leaning themselves to enable everybody?
Yeah, great question. And that's one thing I would say. Apple, I think, is kind of, along with some other companies there, I mean, have been at the forefront for over 10 years now, making sure that their technology is inclusive and accessible from everywhere and for everyone. Completely not judging. So the idea is that as you say, some support requirements are less impactful than others. Some, at the same time, I think it's just wonderful when we can see technology, completely helping someone who cannot see, for example, navigate a computer. So some of the technologies, I mean, honestly, this is becoming leaps and bounds now as the devices in your pocket are becoming so much more powerful. So technologies that we're seeing enabling us and users. So, for example, voiceover. Incredible personal voice. I was reading about this one yesterday. Actually, if you are at risk of losing your voice for whatever reason, if you're going in for an operation, this technology will allow you to actually pre-record some of your, like, maybe 100 words or something, and it will actually allow you to type back to people, but it will speak with your voice. And this is built into your iPhone in your pocket. So, for example, if you have, some sort of cancer in your throat and you are at risk of losing that, how amazing is that technology to be able to, keep you part of the conversation, to ask for that coffee when someone's going to the tea room. We're seeing eye tracking technology. I mean, it's becoming, with all the new technology with LiDAR and all this sort of incredible stuff there. I'm thinking like Vision Pro here, but eye tracking is becoming amazing, where you can literally operate your device now just by looking at the area on your screen. And this is built in. This is, for me, what's really critical and core here is that this technology is built into devices as well. So assistive touch, I mean, pretty much whatever area that needs support, multiple vendors now have built-in support. But one thing I would definitely say to look at is that accessibility functionality built into device, or do you have to procure it separately and have someone set it all up for you? But one of the other ones we're definitely seeing people become more efficient is, with the rise of the personal assistants. Now, back in the day, we had the likes of Siri, but Apple recently launched Apple Intelligence, and we've got Google Gemini. There's kind of a distinction here between what Microsoft Copilot is. Now, that is a very cool technology, but separate to this, we're talking about personal assistants, where they can help you, for example, paraphrase if you're struggling to read a long page, you can actually go in here now and summarize a document. There's been some things on the news recently where certain news headlines aren't necessarily the ones that should be summarized, because otherwise you end up getting like, Justin Timberlake did this or did that, and actually it's putting like 4 news articles together. So they're quite funny, those ones. But where this technology is great is that, for example, if you struggle with dyslexia, for example, or your grammar, you can now actually go through and have this kind of do a proofread for you and point out some of the I know the words that I guarantee I will spell wrong when I type them in. I just go back and I right click on them. But so we're definitely seeing a rise now of great personal technology like Apple Intelligence, like Google Gemini, which will help. And with the ChatGPT integrations, that you can literally kind of rewrite some information, but with your words. You're not writing it from scratch. So definitely, I think technology. I love seeing technology work in the workplace for people, where it can certainly assist and literally empower users to get the best out of the tools, to me that's really rewarding.
And Joe and Helen, is there training sessions or enabling sessions for assisted technology training, so that people, whilst they might have a device, they might not actually know how assisted it can be, because lots of times I look at my phone and I can do various things on it. I can't do half the things that it can do because I've no idea how to do it or access it. How do you manage the challenge of keeping your teams up to date with the latest updates? And obviously they're happening so much quicker these days now, aren't they? So how do you cope?
I've signed up for the Copilot one because there's a whole raft of training, that sort of online training that Microsoft are providing for us, that for our staff to have access to. So I've signed up for the Copilot one because people talk about it all the time, but I haven't actually used it, and I can only hope that it would make some of the reports I have to read much quicker.
Sure.
Oh, Helen,
when
I've
they're
been in a
written,
relationship.
because I do read every word. Some of the words I have to look up, but for all the different kinds of reports that I get that go through Cabinet, and I think sometimes less is better. Shorter.
Good summary.
Yeah.
Helen, I've been in a relationship with Copilot for a year now.
Have you?
And I think you'll blossom with Copilot as well. I think, yeah, especially with the amount of work that you do as a counsellor for your constituents. I think you'll love it. Microsoft is brilliant actually at giving us training. One of the things that we do as part of the recruitment process is ensure that we have that awareness of making sure that we represent all of our constituents and all of our residents within our workforce, or we are sensitive to making that happen. So depending on the level that we're hiring somebody in, we do want to make sure that they are aware of assistive technology, the power of assistive technology, and how it can be integrated into the technology that we have. So it's a key part of our culture, and it's a key part of hiring people in to any council. And again, I can't think of one council that won't ensure that if somebody needs that support in the work environment, that they will get it, and they'll get the training that goes with it.
Yeah, and I guess from that perspective as well, you're also dealing with the public as well, and for a wide range of ages. And I know my dad, bless him, love him dearly, has now sort of stopped wanting to park in town because he doesn't understand how to use a parking meter, because he can't see it well enough, and he doesn't know his registration number, because by the time he's remembered it, he's got the parking thing and forgotten it, or if he's written it down, he can't remember he can't read his own writing. So how you've got to interact. I guess that you enabling some of your teams to be able to go and share that knowledge with your constituents.
Yeah, so we have done some work, and I have actually gone along to our local Age UK, where they have a group called Voices of Experience, and I have faced that. And I think that we do have to be aware of these things, because actually it's not even just old age, is it, that actually excludes people from certain things. You could be any age, something could happen to you, your life can change on the sixpence. You're going to come across problems that you've never encountered before. And I think one of the things we always talk about in our customer service journey is that actually, yes, we do want people to use the website. We do want people to be able to self-serve. But actually, in getting the majority of the residents to be able to do that kind of thing, it frees up offices and the call centre to actually talk to the people who really need it. So I don't think we're ever actually going to get away from the different kinds of parking apps that people have got. I think that even for us is a step too far. But the rest of it, we do want to make much easier for people.
I think on that point around accessibility for our citizens, if you think about digital exclusion, the GLA have got and the Mayor have got a very significant piece of work about bringing people in to the digital economy, and there are 3 key reasons that have been identified in the common known to all council digital people are does someone have a device in order to actually access digital services? Do they have the data in order to access the digital services, and do they have the skill set to access the digital services? And there are an enormous amount of work that's taking place to bring people into the digital community, as we say, across all ages. I mean, you speak of your dad. My aunt is 84 this weekend, and she's discovered WhatsApp for a conversation and Facebook, and often she's phoning me saying, I've just seen this on Facebook. So I don't think some of the assumptions we make are actually grossly incorrect. A lot of the most cool, on the ball, digitally inclusive people are over the age of 60, and some of those excluded might be part of the younger generation, and that could be very economically driven as well. So we are sensitive to that, and how do we bring people into that? We do see councils working to achieve that. And if you look at any redesign of any service, accessibility and accessibility standards are a key part. So I know Southwark have done some enormous work about bringing, making sure the website up to speed. Bren have done it as well. Is our website to the right standard around the government, the GDS standards and the disability accessibility standards as well, so that they are there, and we do think about that. We think about that for all of the products and services that we do launch within the digital framework. On the parking apps, parking tends to be outsourced to a third party. It's their app, and I've also learned about it. Why do I have 20 apps?
Yeah, exactly.
For 32 councils.
Oh yes, yours must be huge to manage. Yeah. I'm going to go back. Thank you for that.
Just to go onto that, we were in Cornwall and we had to use money.
What,
no, you didn't.
Yeah, it's like I can't cope. I've got no money.
That's Cornwall for you.
Yeah, bits of it, not all of it. Not all of it.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I'm quite happy to send my dad over there. He'd be delighted. He can put money in the meter. That'll cheer him right up. Visiting him might be a bit of a stretch.
Oh, believe me, it is terrible. So
quite a long way away. So one of the other questions that's come up here, again from Kemi, actually saying about we talked about taking your own laptop overseas, and I know we're going back a little bit, but actually it kind of ties in a little bit with this, what we're talking about assisted here. When you look at there's a whole bring your own device conversation. How do you cope with that challenge? Is it a challenge? Is it something that you have a challenge, or if you were going to go to Portugal or Poland or wherever you were going, and you need to take a laptop and work outside into a different country, would you allow your users to take their own device and log on that way, and because they're familiar with it, or because they have an assisted technology need that they would need to use that technology? How would that work?
I haven't got chapter and verse on it, but I would imagine that actually, if it's not a green country, it's not on the green list, then no, it doesn't matter what you're using. It would be a no.
On the flip side,
I've certainly had that with somebody who had to go abroad because of family illness, and then was texting me, and I went, no, it's I'll ask, but I think the answer's no. And I did ask, and the answer was no. And I think that's fair enough. And there'll be emergencies like that. And actually, in the end, if you're on holiday, why not just be on holiday? Let's have some work-life balance along this. Obviously, Joe's case was different because things were already scheduled, and that's fair enough. But for the rest of the time, I think we just got to be conscious that work hard when you're here.
But if you had to work outside of the UK for your organisation, part of your council duties were to work outside, that would be authorised ahead of time, would it? So
yes, it would have to be.
Mhm.
And
As
actually,
Helen
you know,
says,
we don't get
green
out
list.
much, really, do we? Not
No,
really.
we don't really travel. We're not going off to Paris, Tom, this afternoon. But bring your own device is fine. If you've got your own device, there's no issue with that. I use my own devices because I like them, and I don't want to have 20 laptops around my desk and be schlepping one around. It works. I think it depends on the policy of the council. It really does. But they do have to put the safety and security of their most vulnerable first, and they will do that. So, if you can't work on holiday because the risk is that might expose some data on some vulnerable residents, get over it. Go and get yourself another pina colada and sit by that swimming pool with a factor 50 on. That's
lovely.
an order from Helen.
I think
Yeah,
it's an
that's the kind of girl we are. Yeah, so.
works for me. So one other thing from Colin at Redbridge, fun enough, he said there's a risk that people will use AI to do their thinking. We need a means
Ooh.
that people know enough about the material they are submitting. What's your feelings? And it looks like Joe's got lots.
Sam, Colin at Redbridge. We love Redbridge. Exactly right. Exactly right. Don't outsource to AI to do your thinking for you. Absolutely use it to improve your. Look at it this way, Colin, really simply. Use it to improve your work. No issue with that. But if you're using it to do your work, big question. Why do we need you? Why are we hiring you? So use it to help you. There's no issue with that. But do not use it to do your work. Because if you do, you're making yourself redundant. Where's your value?
I think what I'd like to add in there again, there is this, good opportunity for an educational piece, and we talked about staff training before, but with regards to AI, it's something that we definitely need to understand. The risks around it. There are definitely, if you just go on to, and we've heard some kind of horror stories in the news of financial companies, banks, and stuff like that uploading spreadsheets into ChatGPT, not knowing that information becomes part of the public domain. So and then suddenly another competitor company might, or whatever, is starting to analyze that data because you put it out there. And once we know that once you put data into the internet, it's very hard to redact that. So I think that is a good opportunity, and certainly where us at Econocom, what we've been doing with companies and institutions is certainly offering that sort of educational piece around the AI. Obviously, even with Microsoft Copilot, it's not just a case of Copilot for 365 going in and switching the button on. Everything you need to, the permissions, all of that information has to make sure that SharePoint information isn't going to be leaked, that you have access to the CEO or someone else's salary information. So there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that AI is secure and only can access the information. But again, part of that is the end user education piece. And as Joe said there, we certainly don't want to put people out of work. We want AI, for me, is the ability to summarize or find my grammar mistakes, to maybe come up with a better way of phrasing things, to bullet point things. I think technology for that is helpful, but ultimately I would be out of a job if it just did the work for me.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And do you police that at all? Is there a way of policing that? There is there?
Yeah, we police that, especially on applications. There's a bit of software we run it through. We can check. You can tell if everyone's literally written exactly the same thing. And I caught someone doing it in an interview. Actually, listening, attentively listening to our questions, and then the entire panel knew they were using AI due to the fact nothing they said was personalized. We kept probing, well, what would you do? And they gave some really fantastically brilliant answers, but they weren't relevant to the questions that were being asked. It wasn't. You can tell. You could tell you want someone's authentic experience.
Yeah,
and some of it just does actually verge on nonsense in the end, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it, Helen?
It verges on nonsense. Just a completely off the chart thing. We went to the Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival a couple of years ago, and there was a fantastic piece by an artist whose name I can't remember, but it was all about Irish music and Ireland, and they ran all this sort of Irish traditional music and songs through AI and developed this piece of music, and it was just silly. and that was the whole point, you know, that she was making, that you can use things to be creative, but it doesn't actually replace the person and the ideas that a person has.
That's a really good example, Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one other. I think we've got time for just one more question. It says here, I've got one from Raza from Wirral, and he says, voice measures to protect the data. Example, as it can access your banking and other systems in case of a data breach. So do you have any voice? I guess is what his question is. How do you protect against voice activated access?
Because currently we don't have any, so
Okay.
that's the end of
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was going to say. I think there's an issue for us.
It's not
I mean,
dangerous currently.
Yeah, we're not there yet on voice activated systems.
That's a list on your list of to-do list then now.
Yeah, but not giving access to banks though. So
I tell you, I did hear one horror story of I hear what he's talking about. I did hear one horror story of a journalist telling me about someone doing this, taking creating this virtual voice, which was false, and getting a finance director to transfer something like $3 million out of a company. But that was a very sophisticated scam.
Okay,
So he's right to ask the question, but we're not using it at the moment.
cool. Okay, thank you. So I suppose any other points that you would like to make, Helen or Joe, before we wrap up, because we've almost done our hour.
yeah, it's been very interesting. I think one of the things that really strikes me about the whole IT tech thing is how creative it actually is. It's not, you know, it's not just like a bureaucratic thing, but you know, there's so much possibility out there that's one of the things that really excites me about it.
Agree.
And I think it's having inspired counsellors like Helen, mean that we get the money to and the backing and the support to put these things in place, and we are creative, and some of the stuff we do is particularly cool.
Cool.
And very cool, yeah. And you know, come along and find out. I know, yeah. I'm not going to talk about Cassandra being wonderful at Redbridge. I won't do that.
I'll email her.
Do tell her.
I will.
So we have one more poll left to do, if you wouldn't, or for the audience, if you wouldn't mind. I'll just pull it up now, which I seem to have lost it. Hold on a minute, there it is. So we have, following on from our discussions today, we've created a public sector ebook. So if you would like to receive our public sector ebook, please vote now, and then we'll be able to get back in touch with you. If you have any specific interest in training or technical support, please give us a shout. We've also, I'm just going to put a slide on, the last slide we're showing is our QR code. If you'd wish to follow Econocom on LinkedIn, for those that are tech savvy. But to wrap up, really, I'd like to thank Joe and Helen and Tom for being such fabulous hosts and really spending this hour with us this afternoon on what was a grey day and has now been far more exciting. So thank you all very, very much for your time. Take care, everybody.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.